All right, hello, welcome to XenoChat, a podcast dedicated to Xenogears, Xenosaga, and Xenoblade and beyond. I am the host, Tyler. With me today is my co-host, Justin.
How's it going, everybody?
All right, and
Hello.
And as you heard just there is our returning guest from the Xenogears episode, Kat.
Hello.
Thank you for coming back.
You're welcome.
All right, and today we also have a brand new guest, and that is Morgan. Well, thank you for coming. So I don't know if you're too familiar with the show too much, but so the way it starts out, we're going to kind of go over some Monolith Soft related news, and then if you'd like to afterwards, Morgan, kind of go over your experience with the Xeno series. And then after that, we'll go into the topic at hand, which today's theme is Best Girl Melia from Xenoblade 1. But yeah, we'll start with the news. Let's see. I know they announced an official art book for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which was supposed to come out February 2nd, but it got delayed to February 12th due to the high demand. Is anybody...
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, that's really awesome. I mean, it kind of sucks, but at the same time, it's awesome that there was so much demand for it.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be on break when they announced it, so I ordered it on Amazon JP.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so I should be one of the lucky ones.
That's good. I wonder if the delays are affecting people who ordered it. Is it just like the next batch, or is it all orders right now?
I think it's all orders because I also got an email saying that it would be delayed.
Okay. Yeah, that's great that there's a lot of demand because, I don't know, I'm kind of bugging certain companies on Twitter to, bring that overseas to some people that live in other countries. Hint, hint.
Have you gotten any response so far aside from Dark Horse?
Only Dark Horse so far, and it looks like that response got like a lot of hit. Like people were retweeting it like crazy.
Cool.
Because I want that to not stay in Japan because we never get those art books. I think this is just money on the table right here. Like,
yeah,
it will sell.
There was as I don't know if you're familiar with it. There was like a Xenosaga 3 book that they released like years and years ago after Xenosaga 3 came out. That was really like extensive with the lore and everything, and it was never going to come out in the US, but it just kind of shows how much the Xeno like brand has grown ever since Nintendo has undertaken it and bought Monolith Soft.
Right, and right now we're at a point where Xeno is more known than it's ever been. I mean, Blade 2 sold pretty darn well.
Yeah,
and we were saying that Blade 1 was selling pretty good, and then X I think did okay, but like Blade 2 is really where we're at a point where you can go up to some random Joe down the street and say, "Oh, have you played a Xeno game?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I think I heard about that." Whereas maybe 3-4 years ago, I go up to somebody, I say, "Oh yeah, you ever played Xenoblade?" And they'd look at me like I had 3 heads. They're like, "What you talking about, Xenoblade?"
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as localization of older art books, I had a very slim Xenosaga 1 art book that became very rare to find. Like, usually when the US gets localizations of art books, they're very slim and they don't cover all the material and everything's cut. So I think as far as U.S. art books go, we've basically been relying on players' guides like since the 90s for anything like that. And for an entire art book to be localized in English, that would be a dream come true. So I hope we get
Absolutely, especially for this franchise. And to be fair, it has been getting a little bit better. You have certain companies like Udon who have been publishing all sorts of art books, mainly for the Capcom games. Like there's an Okami art book right now. There's Phoenix Wright art books. There's multiple Mega Man ones that have been released. And other companies are also jumping in on this too. Like you get the Persona art books and the Fire Emblem Awakening.
And those Ultimania Final Fantasy art books.
Yes, the Ultimanias. Those are, by the way, Ultimania art books are really good. I actually have 2 copies of the first one because I bought it, and then as a late Christmas gift, a friend got me a copy of it. So I actually have 2 of the first volume. And I also just got volume 2 of that, which has the PS1 games. And that is also fantastic. And there's a 3rd one coming out later this year. And I'm definitely going to be picking that up. So yeah, if you love Final Fantasy, pick this up. And just in general, you want to support those releases to show companies that there is a demand for art books. And I think there really is one. A lot of people do like having the physical media in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I remember they had the Hyrule Historia art book a few years ago. I believe that did pretty well.
It did incredibly well. It was a #1 bestseller before it released for months, I think, if I recall.
Yeah, absolutely. And that just goes to show you that there is money to be made off of these things. And I hope that Nintendo is seeing this. I hope that they're realizing that, yeah, there's more people who want these games outside of Japan and want this kind of merch outside of Japan. I might be wrong with this, but wasn't there like an old interview way back in the Xenoblade 1 days where Iwata spoke to Monolith and they were kind of taken aback by the positive reception that Xenoblade got in the West. And they're just like, yeah, we didn't realize that this could be as big as it is.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, Iwata is actually the one who pushed it to want to brand it as a Xeno game. Originally, I think it was going to be called something else. I don't remember.
It was Monado, the beginning of the world.
Yeah, that's right. That was it.
Okay. Well, let's see. In other news, I know the Ellie figure for Xenogears came out, which I thank you again for suggesting Ami Ami. Justin, because I ordered it, and like less than a week later, I got the figure, and I was like, "Holy crap, that was fast!"
So Ami Ami is a decent site, but also don't underestimate Amazon US because sometimes they get this stuff too. Like the other day, and by the other day I mean I think maybe Thursday. I was just browsing Amazon, just randomly, because I had PlayAsia open and I was looking at soundtracks, and then I was just thinking to myself, like, maybe I'll look some of these up on Amazon. I go on Amazon, there's a Xenogears soundtrack, Amazon US Xenogears soundtrack. It's like $30, and I'm like, yep, I'm buying that, and it just came today.
Nice.
Which soundtrack was that? Was that the new one or was that Creed?
I think it was the new one. I don't think it was Creed.
Oh, okay.
It was the one that has like that weird cover where it's like orange and there's like the axe and it has like, all those like weird smoke effects on it.
I got confused because Creed is also very orange. As they tend to reuse that same graphic, I've noticed.
Yeah. It can get really confusing. And then there was the other one that came out on vinyl like last year.
Oh yeah, that one, yeah.
Which I did get that one too. But yeah, Amazon US.
Get that one. Sorry.
Amazon US, they stock some of this stuff. I think they actually have the Blade soundtracks on there too.
Nice.
Oh, sweet.
Okay, and didn't the Pyra and Mithra figures come out recently too, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe
I think so.
Or maybe
possibly the Mithra one.
Okay.
But yeah, I know those were. Those figures looked really nice, but the problem was they were also like $200 a pop.
Yeah,
they were really expensive.
Something ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
and,
wake me up when there's a Malos figure.
Yeah, Malos, or even like Numa.
Yes,
I would love to have a figure of her. And they also had the Siren model kit by Kotobukiya.
Oh yeah,
that was amazing. Yeah,
which I was very close to buying, but the reason I didn't is because as much as I like Kotobukiya kits, I've owned a few of them. They can be a bit of a pain to put together. I did get the scale one, and that like to transform it into a vehicle is such a pain. And even just like putting it together took me a really long time to do, only for me to knock it off of the table and for it to shatter.
Oh no,
man!
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah. I thought about getting that one day, but I'll for some reason I'll just keep buying Cosmos figures. Which
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Though I'm still wondering when they'll release like pictures of the Cosmos RE2 figurine.
Yeah.
They've been really quiet about that.
I just want there to be a male character figure from Xeno besides Shulk.
Oh, we got. I agree. I mean, we got Faye now.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
And he's pretty awesome, even though I've broken his legs like 2 times now.
No. My figure's been at home because we changed our desk situation to an open floor, or rather an open office floor plan, and I hate it a lot. And I don't have private cube space anymore. I have much less space. I can't put up posters, so I'm very sad about it. So my Faye is still in his coffin at home.
Okay. Oh, is there any other news that anyone can think of?
No, I can't think of off the top of my head now.
There was a story about, and it might have been, it just included physical copies, but I remember I covered it, that Xenoblade 2 surpassed 200,000 units sold in Japan and sold 65,000, around 65,000 units, just below 65,000 units in 2018. And so I think they ranked...
Wow.
I forget what their ranking was for the year in software, but it was just outside the top 50, I think. Which
that would put it.
So it was placed right below, I think, Dragon Ball FighterZ for the Switch, and it was just above.
Wow.
I forget what game, but it was pretty impressive for a game that's been out for well over a year now.
So that would actually put it close to the 2 million mark, would it? Because
that's what I would think.
I remember it was at around 1.2 by January or February 2018.
Oh yeah,
So if it's
last year when Nintendo had their quarterly briefing, they released their sales numbers. I think it was around 1.4 million or 1.5. And so that was around this time last year, and so they're going to update their numbers again within the next couple weeks, and so that will give us a more up-to-date picture of what the sales numbers are. But then that would put it at least double what Xenoblade Chronicles X did. It's the first Xenoblade game that's really had a chance to do really well worldwide in terms of sales with its release, because Xenoblade 1 had a very limited release in the West and wasn't even supposed to be released in the West. And then when Xenoblade Chronicles X came out for the Wii U, the Wii U was a dead system. It was the only game to come out for the holiday season, but I think it sold just under 1 million units, so it was around 800,000 units worldwide, which wasn't bad, but it was on a dying system, so it's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the best-selling Xeno game out of all the Xeno games. So it's really impressive. I mean, even if it not being a Xeno game, it's still really impressive how well it's been doing.
Yeah, especially too on a new system. The Switch has sold really well, but on a new system like the Switch with a less established RPG genre, or RPG series.
Well, it goes to show what can happen when a game is able to not really have as much of a troubled development cycle, but also the platform holder is able to support it properly and also market it. Mm-hmm. Those are all things that previous Xeno games have kind of failed at or have had trouble with. It's always been, oh yeah, they couldn't finish this part of the game, or oh, they didn't really market it, or oh, this didn't get released in this region. So I think Blade 2 is definitely the first time where a Xeno game has had a legitimate chance of succeeding, and I think for the most part it's paid off, at least financially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really can't. Oh, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, it just gives the series even, more of a chance going forward with sequels, and I hope, this is my hope for a Xenosaga HD remaster collection on Switch, but that might be a pipe dream.
That would be so nice.
That would be nice.
May I join you in this pipe dream?
I'm still pessimistic, but that would be really, really nice.
My hopes are dashed, but if we got it, I would be over the moon.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, Bandai Namco did re-trademark, thus, also, whatever the name of the third game is. Also
Sprach Zarathustra.
Also Sprach Zarathustra, yeah. They re-trademarked it, so I don't know. You never know, but it would be a great opportunity to capitalize on the Xeno brand now is stronger than ever before, and so you have brand new fans of the series who've never played the older games on the original Xenogears and Xenoblade, and so it would be, I think, a really great opportunity to introduce those games to a new generation who are seem to be legitimately interested, but
we can always hope.
Absolutely. And you know what? That's a good segue into your history with the Xeno games. So, Morgan, why don't you do us the honors in telling us your story?
Okay. Well, it was, this is a long time ago now. Almost 13 years ago, I was in a GameStop, and I was just looking for an RPG to play, and I found Xenosaga Episode 1. So this is about July of 2006, and so I played it and fell in love with it. I thought it was fantastic, and went out right after I beat it, bought the second game, and then played through that, beat that, and just a couple months later, the third game came out, and so played through the third game, and it became one of my favorite series of all time. And so that's kind of the beginning of my history with the Xeno series, and then when Blade came out for the Wii, that was really exciting, and I was able to nab that at GameStop right before they started price gouging it, selling it used when it was really new for $80, which they did do. That was crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember those
What
days.
was even worse about that was they started a new line of games called the Vintage Game Line, and it was Xenoblade and Metroid Prime Trilogy. So they actually got new shipments of both of them. They opened them up and then marketed them as used. And if you went onto GameStop's website, the Xenoblade page had all sorts of information about Xeno on it. They went all out and just made it this big thing on the site, because they're just oh yeah, we got this rare game. Check us out. We're GameStop. We got this rare game you can't find anywhere else. We got the good deals over here. But it's just and what blows my mind about that is, maybe if you actually bought Xenoblade when it was coming out, you went on their site, the page for it was just so bland. There was nothing there. They didn't care about it. It wasn't until a couple months later when the copy started going away, where people were, I think part of the reason was the Wii U came out that same year. So people bought the Wii U, they were looking for games. And so people were starting to find out about Xenoblade 1, and they're hearing high praise and from people who play this saying, "Oh man, this is a really good game. Oh, I should probably play this. I got a Wii U. Let me go check this game out." And then just like that, you go on eBay. It's like $90, and GameStop's just like, I'm gonna get a piece of that pie. So they do that, and it's so stupid.
Yeah. I would actually, I don't buy new games opened. I won't buy a game unless it's sealed for new price. So I was lucky. I went to my local GameStop and it was sealed. Bought it with my birthday money, and played through that. And I remember my first impression when I first loaded it up and started through like the opening cutscene. I was like, "Wow, this looks worse than a PS2 game." Like, because like you play like Xenoblade Chronicles or Xenosaga Episode 3, and that was one of the last PS2 games to come out, and it looks fantastic.
It is
even still, it looks great. Like I still think it holds up pretty well.
It does.
And especially those cutscenes that are like with the in-game engine, it's like sometimes you can't even differentiate between the pre-rendered and the ones that are made with the game's engine. But so I played through that Xenoblade 1, and I really enjoyed it. I think I felt like it really took a lot from Xenosaga, which was kind of cool. I found these little tidbits. I always that would start a whole nother discussion, which we can save for another time. But I started writing about games about 6 years ago. I think it was 6 years ago. But when Xenoblade Chronicles X came out, I got that for review from Nintendo like a month early, which is really cool. And
That's
so
really
that
cool.
was like, so I played 100 hours like over the course of that month and reviewed it and got really good feedback for the review. Actually, people kind of found it and kind of went viral. But and now I run my own media outlet, and I came across a kind of prominent figure I'm not going to name, who stated that Bandai Namco is bringing Xenosaga. God, I keep on getting mixed up. Xenosaga to Switch. And so I reported on that rumor that Xenosaga was coming. The HD remaster, the trilogy was coming to Switch, and it blew my site up. And that was interesting. And then the guy got really mad because it was on an alleged Patreon only podcast. Whatever, I think that's really stupid. But yeah, the rumor though reached so far that one of the main producers at Bandai Namco, who works on Tekken, actually like commented on it. You guys probably know.
Yeah, Harada.
Yeah, he actually commented on the rumor. He's like, I have no comment, which just kind of, but I run a lot of Xeno content on my site, but that's kind of my history with the series, and kind of really Xenosaga especially is one of my favorite series next to The Legend of Zelda. And it was really kind of deeply personal to me. So, Xeno games I think are fantastic, and I love Takahashi, and I'm so glad that he got like another chance after, Xenosaga didn't really sell and things weren't looking so great for Monolith Soft, and then Nintendo swoops in, buys them, and we're here, which is the best position the kind of overarching series of games has ever been in. So that's my my history with kind of the series, how I was introduced to it. And yeah, I'm really kind of a student of philosophy, religion, all this kind of stuff. And so I find that's especially why Xenosaga for me is so I don't know, all the games really, but Xenosaga in particular is really resonates so much, and the way they're able to kind of the way it intertwines with all the various themes and whatnot. I don't know. So.
Okay. And what was your opinion on Xenoblade Chronicles 2?
Oh, that's I liked it a lot. I loved it. There are some things, like, my only complaint was probably sometimes, like, Rex was just, like, so, like, overly, like, optimistic, which is one thing I love about his character, but also, like, one thing that kind of annoys me, like, when he says, like, Malos, like, the architect, like, asks him, like, what are you gonna do, like, if you, like, beat him? And he's like, I punch him and then go have a drink with him. And it's just like, what? He's, like, killed all these people. Why?
Yeah, that seemed a little forced to me too, honestly.
But I really liked 2. I think that they did a really good job. I know initially when it was shown off, a lot of people were, like, fans of the first game were kind of a little put off by the anime style, the art style.
Oh yeah.
And I don't get why, to be honest.
But I think it looks great.
Yeah, it does. And, I guess I would consider myself one of those Xenoblade fans if I had to put a label. I saw the anime art style, and my thought was, oh my goodness, they're actually making the characters a lot more expressive this time. This is awesome.
That is one thing that style does, and that's why, with Zelda, Legend of Zelda, they did, when they went to the Wind Waker's toon style, or toon shaded style, cell shaded style. One of the reasons why is because it made the characters more expressive.
Mm-hmm.
They're able to do more with it. So,
not gonna lie, I was kind of put off by the art style at first, but it really grew on me. But as you guys said, it's probably the most expressive any Xeno game's really been, besides, like,
absolutely,
yeah, but yeah, especially more expressive than Xenoblade.
Yeah, I've loved the new artist from start to finish. The concept art looks great and the models look great, which they've had trouble with lately, especially with Xenoblade X. So I was really excited to see, like, anime style models that looked great in 3D. So that's my onion there.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a nice love letter to just the medium as a whole. Because you had a lot of classic manga artists in there contributing some work to Xenoblade 2. And that's what made getting the rare blades kind of exciting, because you can look at them in a gallery and you can see what artist drew them, and then you can look them up and then check out their other work.
I think also Takahashi said in an interview that the various art styles helped the team immensely, because then they could, like, practice creating models using various art styles. So that was a really nice way to go about it too.
Yeah, and I know Xenoblade 2 got a lot of flack for it, because I've seen a lot of people complain online about how it's inconsistent, it doesn't fit, but personally, I liked it.
I think it feels more real than any other game with a set style. It's kind of like anime styles have this problem where a lot of them end up same-faced, and, like, even if the face looks good, you start to notice it when people have criticized it. Like, there's a lot of criticism in the media right now, at least among artists, with in regards to same face drawing. And when I was growing up, we never used to have that conversation, but now that it's an open dialogue, I see it everywhere. Once I get like used to a series, it's just like, okay, these character designs are just like the same face with different hair or different colors. And Xenoblade 2 doesn't really have that problem because there's so many other designers involved. But like, I guess the main artist is kind of same facey, but not to the extent that other anime stuff has been. Like, certain artists don't know how to draw like older people, and it's pretty plain that Saito, I think his name, he doesn't delve into that a whole lot. And like these games, like a well-rounded game has characters of every age, and like getting the extra artists really padded that out, I think.
Yeah, it added a certain sense of variety that you don't often see in many games, especially in an RPG, where it's kind of like typical practice to often get a set of characters and then just kind of copy them over and over again.
Yeah.
And just give the illusion of a dense population when it's really just like the same kind of character models being used over and over again. So them being able to have all these different artists working on these different character models, it kind of gave the game it gave many of the characters a more distinct and more unique style to them, which, yeah, you're right. You don't see that often in video games. You don't see that often in anime. And I guess like for a lot of people, that's very off-putting to them. And Kat, you kind of brought up a good point about how we never used to have this conversation before. And I think part of the reason why we've never had that conversation before is that it's part of a bigger thing with anime. Anime and just that kind of media in general is more widespread and available today than it ever has been. In the 90s, we didn't get a whole lot of anime. So it's not like we really knew what tropes were. Whereas today, it's like every other conversation is about tropes. Oh, They're this trope. Oh, no, he's just this. Oh, I've seen this 20 times. So I think that's actually part of a bigger conversation to be had, which we might actually, that'd be a good conversation for the podcast, would be tropes in Xeno, but that's a whole other conversation for another day.
Huh?
Oh no.
What happened?
No.
Oh god.
Oh, you know what? Maybe there's a limit since you're using your phone.
Oh crap. Oh shoot.
Damn.
It's okay. Did it? It's all right. So it's okay. Did it save any of that, or
maybe boot it up again and see if it retained anything?
Yeah. Don't worry, buddy. We're here to work with you.
Yeah, that sucks. We can, we're all in this together.
And while you're doing that, I will go read some more Heart to Hearts, since I'm finding some interesting trivia about Melia in them.
I didn't get done, doing any of my research.
How about this? We'll do a little bit of a Did You Know Gaming Xenoblade? Did you know Melia's sign is the Rhapsodist? In the Heart to Heart with Charla reveals that that Shulk's sign is a pedagogue, and that pedagogue and Rhapsodist are compatible with each other.
What even is that?
That was just like the...
So apparently... Oh, you ever heard of Digital Gaming?
No, not in that particular... No.
So it's just they're this channel, and they have all sorts of videos for random games, and it always starts with this guy who just goes, "Did you know?" And then he just says random trivia about games.
Wow.
Oh yeah, those Did You Know Gaming? Yeah, I really like those. Oh,
They're all on Twitter all the time.
So I do know that one.
All right. Okay, well, let's get on to the main topic at hand. Today's topic, we're talking about a character from Xenoblade Chronicles 1, and that is Melia Antiqua.
Yes. Queen.
Best girl.
Yes.
Empress
Melia.
Oh, probably the most tragic character in that game.
Yeah.
She is.
She really is. I mean, gosh, she lost. She lost a lot of people. A lot of people.
There's a joke that her main theme should be the song "While I Think," which, for those of you who don't remember what song "While I Think" is, it's that really depressing song that plays whenever like someone dies or something really horrible happens.
Oh, jeez.
I'll put that as the ending theme of the episode. Except no one's gonna die.
And then to top it all off, the guy that she likes, his kind of dead girlfriend, comes back to life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so she's kind of graceful about it and just kind of lets go, which is...
Yeah, it's very different because not a lot of girls are like that. And it really speaks to her character.
Melia, you know what? And this is something that a question that I came across from doing some research in the internet. I just Googled Melia is best girl, and I was just curious on what the fan base had to say with regards to that. And I saw someone posted that they thought that a lot of fans who were loved Melia had, once Xenoblade Chronicles 2 came out, kind of shifted to being fans of Nia, that now Nia is best girl.
Yes, because that's the joke, actually.
Because they both kind of do that, kind of just accept that it's unrequited and kind of bow out. But what are your thoughts with regards to that?
I think it's really on the mark. Gray-haired Eponine, pretty much. If you guys are familiar with Les Mis at all. Crickets, okay, that's right.
No, sorry.
Eponine is a character in the book and the musical Les Miserables, and her thing is that she is in love with this guy who is in love with this other girl, and her thing is that she sort of lives in her head. She has a whole song where she's pretending that she's with this guy that will never love her. And as soon as I saw, when I was playing Xenoblade 1 for the first time, I saw this sort of start to happen to Melia, and I was like, oh no! No! Because I kind of remember being that girl a little bit in high school, and it wasn't fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing with Melia, and I guess if I was to say, this is what kind of sets her apart from Nia, is that Melia, one of her biggest flaws as a character is that she isn't really great at expressing herself. In a very similar way to how Shulk has a lot of trouble expressing himself. And I think that that's kind of one of the things that connects them. And when they speak to each other, they can instantly relate to each other in that sense. Whereas it seemed like Nia was more, I felt for Rex more so because we kind of just went through a lot of stuff together. And we kind of got to know each other, and Rex has been there for me versus Melia and Shulk. It's kind of like, here's this guy who actually gets me and knows my pain and understands it and knows what to say to me. There's one scene where Shulk, well, actually, it's not even one scene. It's just Shulk is actively acting different towards Melia than than anybody else does towards Melia. At least when you first get introduced to Melia. I think Melia makes a comment that Shulk was the first, like, Hom's boy that she really got into contact with. And, like, from her perspective, Shulk was kind of like the guy that got her to see what life was like being a normal girl, not necessarily being part of nobility. And I think her father noticed that as well, which is why he straight up tells Shulk, I want you to be her friend.
Yeah, and that's important for girls who grow up sheltered. I grew up kind of sheltered myself, so Melia resonates a lot with me as a character. Like not. Like, I'm definitely not a princess or anything, but I was brought up to, like, to the side of other people. I was taught that other people were not going to treat me well, so I had a lot of, like, barriers between myself and other people as I was growing up. I was afraid to approach new people, and, like, it was really hard for me to make friends. So seeing a female character in a video game, usually other game characters, women in games are usually made for a customer. Usually they're not, like, unless it's like a trope or a dating sim where they want to build all these personalities to appeal to whoever's playing the dating game, Melia's particular personality is left out of larger games like this, and, like, seeing somebody who's in her own head, most of her dialogue is in thought bubbles, like along the lines with Squall Leonhardt from Final Fantasy VIII. There really hasn't been a female character in a JRPG quite like Melia.
I agree. And I think that also makes Melia a little bit more realistic. That whole idea of having to put your feelings aside for a lot of the game to try and face the bigger picture, which she does on various occasions in both main cutscenes and also side cutscenes. That creates a character that you don't see often, and one that I actually can relate to Melia a lot as well, with that whole concept of, you know, you have these feelings for someone and you're not quite sure how to put it in words. And Shulk is kind of a similar thing I said before, and I find Shulk really relatable for that too. But yeah, I always liked that Melia, she's constantly at odds with herself in various ways. She's a half Homs, half High Entia. And there's a part of her that wants to be a normal person, but then there's that part of her that she knows she is next in line to lead the High Entians. She has trouble making friends. She says in one Heart to Heart, I believe, where the group that was sent to protect her since she was a kid, they were the only friends that she really had. And those people, they die when they first met Melia, because they were killed off by a High Entia. Well, not High Entia. They were killed off by a Telethia. I mean, I'm not wrong. But, yeah. but if you notice that whenever she refers to those people, she often uses their names. Whereas the other High Entians, they kind of just like, oh yeah, your bodyguards. Yeah, no big deal. Don't worry about them. But Melia's like, no, I'm going to call them by their names.
She even says that when she returns back to the capital about going to their families. But then the Emperor's like, no, you don't have to do that.
Yeah. And if you also notice that when, at least for the first like half of the game, when she was referring to, you know, her parents, she often corrects herself. Because again, she wants to like kind of break away from this fate of hers that's kind of set in stone. Sorian, I think, was her father's name.
Yep.
Yes. He wants her to be the successor, and she wants to do it, you know, partially because like, hey, she loves her father, but at the same time, she also wants to learn what life is like outside of royalty. She wants to be treated like normal because she knows that there's a lot of people in her society that hate her for being a half-blood. I mean,
that's why she even has to wear a mask to...
That's exactly. And And just to further drive that point home, they go as far as to make a duplicate of her, like a fake Melia, just so that she can go ahead and be with Shulk. Because what's interesting about that is, what's interesting about Melia is, and how the High Entia see her, is that the only people that truly kind of looked out for her personal interests are her father and her brother. They seem to be doing everything in their power to help Melia find what she wants, despite the fact that she has this fate, which is why they went with that like body double of hers.
It's kind of like Queen Amidala in Star Wars too.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing I really like about Melia is, you know, she doesn't fit in with the High Entia. She doesn't fit in, you know, with the Holmes, because she's, I mean, being half of each, she doesn't really fit in with either group. And so Shulk and his group, that's the first time that, you know, she's ever given like a place to belong, because, you know, right. She feels like completely out of place,
Absolutely.
For her entire life. And so I find her, you know, to be extremely relatable and just realistic, because a lot of people, you know, feel like that. Like, they just feel like they don't fit in. And especially, you know, growing up for me, you know, that's one of the reasons why Melia resonated so strongly with me. And, you know, her character isn't dependent on her relationship with Shulk. Like, I was really rooting for her, but like, you know, like her relationship with Shulk, whether or not she has a romantic relationship with him or not, that didn't define her character. There's so much more. She's such a strong character.
Yeah.
And strongly written character. And I find that's very rare in JRPGs.
I agree 100%. And I think the game also plays with the player's expectations with this a little bit, because as I was rewatching the cutscenes for this, I noticed something. When Shulk rescues Melia in the tomb, when she's going through that trial, Fiora's theme plays during that. Like that little like sappy like violin song that played at the very beginning when Shulk's with Fiora, that actually plays when he's rescuing Melia.
I think I didn't.
And I thought that was kind of, so it's like, it's almost as if the game is kind of setting that up as well, especially with the king saying what he was saying, Saurian. And also, there's this one particular line that I think is, quite frankly, one of the most depressing lines in the entire game. It's as when Shulk was leaving, is it Alcohol? Is that the name of the place? Alcohol. When Shulk is leaving that, after, you know, all said and done, her and Shulk kind of have like this awkward conversation, like, you know, oh, I'll see you later. And Melia's like, oh, I'll wait for you right here. You better come back. But right after she says that, like, you see her head tilt downwards, which she does this multiple times. And Charla notices. And what's kind of funny is that after Charla notices, she literally face palms. And then she literally face palms and then goes back and calls Melia out on it. And I wrote this down. She facepalms, she calls Melia out on it, and Melia's all like, no, you know, Shulk and I, we're not like this. And then she says this line, which I think is one of the most depressing lines in the entire game. Charla says, yeah, but remember, the longer he's away, the more chance his feelings for you will fade.
Why are you still here? Listen, I'll keep an eye on Shulk for you. Whatever can you mean? Well, it's a risky strategy, letting Shulk go off and just hoping he'll come back to you. Shulk and I are merely... Yeah, but remember, the longer he's away, the more chance his feelings for you will fade. But... Once we find this Fiora, I will personally whisk him back here in a heartbeat. Don't give up. I appreciate it. Great. Don't worry, Melia. I'm on your side.
Ooh, ouch.
Isn't that not like one of the most sad things you've ever
dang,
heard?
Dang, Charlotte, dropping some truth, I guess. But dang.
And she also goes on to say that she's on her side, even though I don't really think Charlotte does a whole lot for her outside of a heart-to-heart where she teases Melia by saying that their astrology signs are compatible with each other.
Yeah, I mean, it was harsh, but...
Sometimes you need to learn harsh truths. I think the thing with Melia, it's pretty obvious that she was raised gently in some ways, but harshly in others. But I don't think she got the whole, like, Charla harsh real end from anybody. Like, she got the harsh from Yumea, and she got the harsh from, like, being separated from her people, essentially. But she has, in her separation from other people, she never learned the street smart part. So she never learned the hard part.
She's very sheltered.
Yeah.
Very.
I think
very sheltered.
Charla being the opposite of sheltered. I think if they had more time together to build their characters, it would have been like I think Charla and Melia are good friends and like mentorship for each other.
Yeah, and I think that's part of a bigger problem with XC1, and that's unfortunately, I felt like Charla didn't get as much screen time as she should have received.
Charla's story is cut extremely short, and I think it seems grotesque in this way because it's too short of a time between when she loses Godot and when she starts up with Ryan. Like, if you for 10 years instead of, like, maybe 10 days...
Well, I was kind of... When I'm rewatching the game, I was kind of off-put, like, when they first meet Charla, she, like says to Ryan, like, 2 or 3 times, like, oh, you're just like Godot. It's like...
Oh, no.
I was like, oh gosh, all right, I think you're just rebounding. I really think you're just rebounding. Yeah. But
yeah, it's also kind of interesting when you consider the age difference between Gadol and Ryan. It's like, I think it's like 8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
And Gadol even calls Ryan kid right towards the end before he dies. Oops, spoiler. But yes.
Okay, so I actually had a question while rewatching the cutscenes in regards to, like, the High Entia, because I know that Melia is the daughter of Hams, who is the second consort to the Emperor, because they have the 2 different consorts. One's a High Entia and the other's a Hams. But they, like, mentioned several times how the Hams don't really know much about the High Entia, and they're almost like, I wouldn't say mythical, but I just don't know how they go about, like, if
picking a Hams.
Yeah, do they acquire a Ham? I mean, it's probably been a long time since they. Yeah, it's been a long time since Melia. I mean, if Melia's 88, that means her mom's been dead probably for a while. But I'm not. They don't really go into depth.
Actually, it seems like it's a long time because the way Melia seems to describe her mom, it seems like it's happened a long time ago. Because she does say that she doesn't have too many memories of her mother, but she does have memories of her. I believe eating with her mother. I think that was said in a Heart to Heart. And just like the High Entia hierarchy, just in general, is kind of weird because Melia essentially has like 2 half siblings. She has Tyria, who is the daughter of Yumea, which is who I guess was the other wife of Melia's father. So she got with the Homs to have Tyrea, because we find out that Tyrea was also a half high NT as well. Then you have Kallian, who was, I believe Kallian was Yumea.
Yes.
Yeah, Yumea's son Saurian.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird considering, like, later on, there's like that scene where Yumea... No, sorry. I'm mixing Yumea and Laurentia.
I did the same thing. I was
gonna say, there's a scene where, like, Laurentia kisses him,
yeah,
and when he, like, transforms, I mix those two up all the time.
Oh, no. They're a very similar character, both of them. They kind of draw from the same archetype, so it's easy to confuse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's just that Laurentia's, she's like the same archetype, but taken to a much higher extreme than Yumea is. But yeah, so you have those three kids, and they're like treated like they're not really brother and sister. Melia only really considers Kallian a brother, whereas Tyrea, despite her mother being one of the wives of her father, she doesn't really consider her as much of a sister, but then in the end, she does kind of consider like, oh, you and I were kind of the same, we're both high Entia. But that doesn't happen until much later in the game, and I guess like that plot point isn't as important, because the only thing that really comes to that was Melia showing her devotion to the High Entia Empire, that she's going to do whatever it takes to rid the world of the Teletias and keep everybody safe, even if it means having to take down her own people, or what used to be her own people.
Yeah, I think, Tyler, to come back to your question, I think, having been conceived about 88 years ago, and nobody in Colony 9 knows what a High Entia is, but there's other colonies. There's Colony 6, which is located much closer to, like, Machna Woods. There could have been another Homs colony that was destroyed by the Mechon by the time. So that's what I've always thought.
Yeah, there's a big time gap that things could have... Yeah, okay.
Yeah, really large time gap.
Yeah, I imagine the Mechon invasion has sort of, like, wreaked havoc with Homs populations, too. Because that's what Takahashi loves to do. He likes to kill people, mostly off screen, but...
Well,
but yeah, I always think that the most fascinating part about Melia is just the way she's learning about the world and learning to trust others, most importantly, because it's hard for her to open up to people, and it's hard for her to trust people because she's been brought up being treated a certain way, and then Shulk was finally somebody who sees her as an individual. He doesn't see her as, oh, she's this high Entian princess. He just sees her, oh, yeah, that's Melia. She's just a nice girl.
Yeah.
And I think that really resonated with her. Like, right after Saurian dies, and Shulk pretty much tells her, look, you're Melia Antiqua. You can't let them get away with this.
Which the scene with her father dying I thought was a really powerful scene, because,
very.
Like, she kind of bottled up a lot of her emotions, but then right then and there she was crying, and the Emperor's like, no, don't cry. And she's like, no, let me cry. And I was like, you go, girl.
Father.
Melia, the hope of our people. You must not cry.
Don't say that. I don't care how improper it is. Let me cry.
Melia.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that whole sequence is one of the best in the game. It's just so many storytelling levels. It's so powerful.
Yeah, that's a good one. And there's a similar scene later on, right after you fight Kallian, and that boss can go die off a cliff. Oh my goodness!
Ring out.
Like. What was that?
It's Ring Out.
Yeah. That boss was such a pain. I think if Blade 1 had a flaw with its combat, it was highlighted in that boss because the AI did nothing but jump into the ether, at least when I played it.
Yeah. Oh, God.
But anyways, at the end of that cutscene, Colleen has some final words for Melia that presumably none of the other characters heard, but Ricky makes a comment about how he didn't hear it, but he felt it. And Melia kind of has this moment where she's just like taken aback and she hugs Ricky. And I think that's another instance of Melia learning that she can rely on her friends and that her friends want to be there for her. Because Ricky's saying, he feels, I think Ricky said like, oh, he feels the old birdie's words or something like that. And Melia just has this moment where she's just like, oh my God, like these people are here for me. They're going to be the people that help me do what I want to do.
I liked her relationship with Ricky because it was very wholesome because there are several times because I mean, he's technically, I mean, he is a father. But there are like, I remember there was one time where he like said how like he was proud of her and like, that was just a heartwarming scene. I really like their relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a lot of scenes where Melia will make a comment about how cuddly Ricky is and how much she likes to poke him or shake him. I think that was actually said in a heart to heart. I think that Ricky might actually be one of the characters she's closest with outside of Shulk. Also, Fiora, funny enough, her and Fiora, she learns to really like Fiora. And I think that goes into how interesting the unrequited love is with her because she shouldn't like Fiora. She has these deep feelings for Shulk, and she knows damn well that Shulk has his sights on Fiora more so than he does on Melia. But yet Melia, she should be jealous, and I think it's even hinted that she is jealous in various ways. But she isn't afraid to look at the situation objectively. Like when she first meets Fiora, after Shulk rescues Fiora and, Fiora's back to quote unquote normal, she says, "Is that your childhood friend? Congratulations." And I think that's such a great line that shows that she can really put aside that kind of irrational feelings that she has to really appreciate the fact that something great happened to Shulk right now and that she should be happy for both of them.
And not many people can do that. Regardless of
Is this another reason why Melia is best friend?
Yes.
Yeah, there's so many scenes that are like that with Melia. And like, I played Xenoblade Chronicles 1 at a time where I had a lot of tough things going on for me. And seeing a character like Melia was really motivating to me. Shulk as well. And I love seeing Melia, and I love seeing her take on all these horrible situations and being able to keep face through them. And she keeps on persevering with it. She's a fighter. She's not afraid to put her emotions aside, but not completely ignore them either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And besides being like the Empress of the High Entia, she's also kind of represents the future of the race itself because of how, I mean, the reason why they have a Homs consort is to try to integrate with the Homs in order to avoid being, turned into Telethia. Yeah.
Yeah, the curse.
Yeah, I remember when she went into the trial, it said the integration with the Homs was like at 80% or something because, something like that. So she represents a whole lot, even though she didn't fully grasp how important she really was for the future of her race.
Also, on a side note, from that same scene, I noticed a block of text that was kind of interesting where they say that 2,512 cycles have passed since the last person to do the trial.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I know that the Xeno games, they kind of have their own concept of time, but I think that's kind of interesting to think about, considering that the High Entias are known to live for a very, very long time. That it's been that long since they've had someone have to do that trial, or somebody's been there. I think that's what it's supposed to imply.
Yeah. And we're given no real timeline from when Klaus pushed the button until the events of Xenoblade 1 take place. But I think at the very least, if you gauge the Mechon people's ages, their lives are in the 10,000s, and they still don't know what all happened. So that's I'd say at least double or triple that time span. Between Bang.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes me think of the scene in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 where Claus explains how he made spoilers. How for Xenoblade 2 how he made the world and whatnot, and in Xenoblade 2, I would imagine he would have undertaken a similar series of it would have. I think he gave a time frame for it, but I mean the world of Mechonis and Bionis is very old, I assume.
Yeah, and I think that it's definitely a long period of time considering the High Entias in general.
Yeah.
Because who knows when the first High Entia were born. And also we have the Telethia, so that we already have Telethia just roaming around in general, so we already know that there's been several, probably multiple periods of time where there was an overflow of ether within the Bionis.
Yeah, I also kind of think that the Telethia and the Napon and the Hyantia share a common ancestor because they've all got head wings.
Yeah, and they're also pretty friendly with each other.
Yeah, they are. So it's just they're different offshoots of the same.
Yeah,
here's a theory.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Here's a game theory. What if Choo Choo gave birth?
Oh my god.
Choo Choo.
Can I say fuck on this podcast?
Yeah, at least 5 times.
Oh, okay.
No.
But yeah, I think that is something that might have some weight. The Nopon and the High Entia, they might have some similar origins at the very least, because both of their colonies are really close to each other, and they both seem to be on kind of friendly terms with each other. So I think they have some history for sure.
Is the real Xeno mystery that I want? No, it's not.
We need answers.
Yes. No.
But yeah, so what about some other characters we could talk about with Melia, or at least her relationship with other characters?
You're completely cut off. I didn't hear what you said.
I was saying we should talk about Melia's relationship with other characters.
Yes.
Because, I mean, obviously you have Shulk, right? There's a lot that you can say about them, which we covered some of that. And then Ricky. And Fiora, about how she should be jealous of Fiora, but she kind of learns to get along with Fiora. And Fiora has that one scene with her where she tells Melia that if something happens to her, she wants Melia to look after Shulk.
I didn't do any research, but that definitely is telling. And I really like that the two of them can coexist without being like Catfight City. I think we haven't touched on Melia and Rhine, or Melia and Dunban.
Sure.
See what I can't. I unfortunately didn't finish my watch through, but how I know with Rhine, she their relationship was really he's a fool, like he's usually a fool, and he's just going running his mouth when he shouldn't, and she's just not having it. Maybe because they're so different in personalities.
You know, and that makes sense too from the standpoint of like Melia and just the way like, you know, she was raised. Like she's very proper and whatnot. Ryan is the
he's
opposite.
Completely opposite.
So it's just natural that she's gonna kind of like look down at him as kind of the idiot in the group, which in some cases might be the case, some cases might not be.
Yeah,
here's the thing with that, and I think unfortunately, Xenoblade 1 is filled with subtleties. There's a lot of things that aren't necessarily explained in the main cutscenes, but are in side cutscenes. Melia and Ryan's relationship, in some of the heart-to-hearts, it kind of tells a different story, where Melia actually does appreciate Ryan and appreciates the way he is for Shulk. And in some ways, even going as far as to say that Ryan was actually the one who helped cheer her up on various occasions because of the way Ryan is. So it's like, so it's kind of interesting that, you have the cutscenes where she's often like telling Ryan off, but at the same time, in the heart-to-hearts, she shows that she's actually really appreciative of Ryan, and in some cases, even certain dialogue choices, even impressed by some of the things that Ryan does know. And I think, unfortunately, for Ryan, a lot of Ryan's qualities aren't seen till much later. He's kind of just like the goofball, and that's kind of how the game portrays him for a large amount of it. But he does have some dependable qualities, and again, those aren't seen till much later. And I guess like another thing that I don't like about Xenoblade 1 is that many of the heart-to-hearts aren't available for the longest time.
Yeah.
There's so many that I still haven't come to.
Exactly.
Because it's really difficult.
And the messed up part is that some of those heart-to-hearts have like some really, really good lore information in there. There's character development in there that you wouldn't have otherwise seen. And I think this is part of it. Like there's this whole like dynamic between her and Ryan, and I'm looking at some of the heart-to-hearts between her and Ryan, and there's some dialogue branches where they kind of play off of how snarky they can be towards each other. Because Melia has a snarky side to her; she can be very sassy at times, and Ryan can also be the same way. And it's interesting how that I think they can kind of connect to each other on that level as well.
Yeah, I think it's really important, like for like I think Melia and Ryan's story. When I think of it, it makes me think of how important it is to diversify your company. Like if you're reserved and you only surround yourself with reserved people, you don't really grow. But if you branch out and like reach out to people, even though you're not like them, then it really helps you progress as a person because you get that different perspective. And I think that is a very like meta Xeno series thing.
And that's what I think one of the strongest aspects of Xenoblade 1 compared to all the other Xeno games is the group dynamics of the cast of characters you play as. And the way they interact with one another, because like I can't help but feeling even now like I didn't get to watch any of the cutscenes, but comparing the cast of Xenoblade 1 to Xenoblade 2, I like them both a lot, but the way they interact in Xenoblade 1, it makes it. I feel like your party is. I feel like it's a stronger party than Xenoblade 2, where they focus more on the relationship between between drivers and blades, and except for some characters don't really interact in Xenoblade 2 as much as, say, Xenoblade 1, where everybody has their moments together.
Yeah, I think it's easier with a smaller cast to get that kind of cohesion. With Xenoblade 2 is a much bigger cast, even though there are only like 5 drivers. They've got like hundreds of blades and like at least 20 voiced ones, so that falls apart a lot easier than just 7.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, good point. Yeah.
So I can't really remember too much, but how would you kind of describe the relationship between Melia and Dunban?
Again, kind of like with Ryan, I think that the heart-to-hearts explore that a lot more. Because Dunban does actually open up to Melia quite a bit. And he tells her about his story with Mumkar. And Melia kind of learns to empathize with Dunban and understand why Dunban is kind of the way he is. Because Dunban, I think, is an interesting character in himself. He should probably get his own episode.
Yeah.
I actually really like Dunban. And, yeah, so Dunban has always been kind of like the voice of reason, but he has a side of him that is really just almost as irrational as Ryan at times. He's just a hothead. He even says it too, that he used to be a hothead. He used to not really think and just kind of slash first, think second.
Yeah, because I remember him saying that when he was talking to Shulk about, like, he was saying how he would want Shulk to be with Fiora over Ryan because Ryan was too much like him when he was younger.
Yep.
Yikes. Oh, also, tidbit about Dunban. This year is the lunar year of the boar, and I think in Japanese, instead of the beast, Dunban is called the boar. So there's a lot of fan art of Dunban for the Lunar New Year this year because of that.
Oh yeah, I think didn't Sorya Saga draw something or yeah.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah. I personally my cat.
Oh, yep. Okay.
Alright, so when it comes to, like, I don't like to do a whole lot of shipping these days, but I think when I was first into, like, Xenoblade, while I was playing it, I liked Melia the most, and I empathized with Dunban the most, so I like to sort of, like, in my head, pair them a little bit.
That was actually a very popular pairing at the time.
And, like, it's been sort of, like, counter-argumented as pairing spares, which, you know, that's also a valid argument, but I also like, I like my pretty things, I like to have my pretty things, but I need to go back and watch the cutscenes before I talk more about this, because I just want to make sure that I'm not running off of old feelings for this as I progress back into this, into talking about this, but I love Dunban, I love Melia.
And actually, one thing that Dunban does do for Melia, again, this is in a heart-to-heart. In one of the heart-to-heart branches, I think this is the good branch, Dunban calls Melia out on her being very reserved. He says that you only seem to truly be yourself when you're around Ricky and Shulk. And that he kind of wants to see her open up to the rest of them. To which Melia says, like, yeah, you know what? You are right, and I appreciate you being blunt with me. And that she wants to open up more to everybody else. And I think that's something interesting, because it shows that Dunban, despite how blunt and how, like, rash he can be, he really can be kind of like a father figure to the whole team, or like an older brother figure. Just like he can watch everybody, he can watch over everyone and just be there for them. And I think that's kind of how Melia sees Dunban, as just this protector, this person that she can count on to protect her, and not just protect her, but protect everybody else as well.
Yeah, gosh, this is why I really like them introducing heart-to-hearts, because you have characters that sometimes you won't have much screen time at all together. We'll just be able to develop relationships with them, because you never could see, like, say, Jen and like Ziggy like having a heart-to-heart conversation like that.
Right. And the messed up part with XE1 is that not only are there heart-to-hearts, there's multiple branches within that heart-to-heart.
Oh yeah.
So we could all play this heart-to-heart, and then we can get a completely different story out of it.
Yeah.
Since some of them are wildly different.
Oh yeah.
But I think it shows a lot of different sides to the characters. Mm-hmm. And I know one thing that a lot of people who are big fans of Saga, they kind of look at Xenoblade 1 characters and they think, oh, they're boring because they're kind of just one-dimensional, which I don't particularly agree with. I think there's a lot of different layers to them. It's not quite as in your face as it was in Saga, granted, but I think it's definitely still there. Just unfortunately, you might have to do a little bit more work to actually see it.
Yeah. If for some reason Saga were to be remade and they did heart-to-hearts within the couple characters, I would die and go to heaven.
Oh my god, yes.
Oh, absolutely. I would love that too.
Heart-to-hearts Xenosaga characters.
Oh my. This is giving me some wonderful material.
Yeah, that's one thing that Saga is definitely missing is some sort of skit system like in Tales or the heart-to-hearts.
Or even if they did that for Xenogears, that would be great as well, since Xenogears was very unbalanced when it comes to character interactions.
Incredibly.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that's kind of Melia. I think we covered the whole cast of Melia, or at least the whole main playable cast.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything anyone else can think of they can add to discussing? Did anybody really play as her that much?
Oh yes.
I did a bit.
I used to main her.
I was terrible with her.
I was at first as well, but when I started looking into FAQs to use her, she became my favorite character. I even named my Final Fantasy 14 character her last name. So my character's name is Melia Antiqua, and I really like it a lot because he's a black mage, and the graphics for the black mage sort of resemble Melia's little pips that sort of follow her around as she casts things. The more you know.
Yeah, her playstyle is really cool because it's like a nuke playstyle. So you have all these different elements, and then you're summoning them and just readying yourself to launch a huge attack. Because each time you use an element, it grants, I believe, the whole party a certain buff. And you have another skill, which is, I think, the copy element. So you can essentially have two of one element, and then you have one more that's an extra buff for the party. And you want to have them up and time it so that you can you can attack in sync with your recharge or your cooldown rather. And it makes for a really interesting gameplay mechanic with her. It also helps that she can self-topple, which is lovely.
That's awesome. I love it when a character can do that.
I love it when they put a super badass skill on a really dainty character.
Oh, like Momo in episode 3.
Yes.
Wait, when they what?
Oh, in Xenoblade episode 3 with Bobo, what's that attack called?
They give her choke like Ziggy, or am I misremembering?
The punch, that very powerful punch that she does, or.
Oh, okay. Is it whatever break? Is it a break attack?
It's just a tech attack. Swordfish.
Oh, okay.
Is it swordfish or no?
That's one of I think Cosmos' attacks.
I don't remember. It's been too long.
I have almost a photographic memory, but I do remember in Xenosaga 2, Momo is the most overpowered character in the world,
she was really strong.
I love the combat in Xenosaga 2, and she was just her attacks were just God. But thing I like about like Melia is like I mean, we've kind of mentioned it makes you play in like a completely different way. She's very unique, and and that kind of goes twofold too. It kind of speaks to her character. She's one of the best characters in the game. She's a really unique character. It's only fitting that she has a unique playset to match. But yeah, I remember when I first started trying to play as her, I had no idea what I was doing, and I was just pressing buttons, and that was interesting. But yeah, it's cool when developers give you something completely different in terms of the combat for a certain character to try and master.
Yeah, for sure. And what I really like about Xenoblade 1, this might be me looking too deep into it, but one thing I really like about Xenoblade 1's combat is that I felt like some of the characters, their fighting style really represented them.
Yeah.
Like I liked how Dunban has the Blossom Dance, which is really cool, and Amelia has her style, which is just completely weird and different and just unique. And also like that Shulk has his style too, which I would argue is actually part of his character development. But actually, you know what? Maybe if we do a Shulk episode, I'll save it for that, since I have a lot to say about him.
But like I like how Melia is like she is the glass cannon herself. Like she's extremely powerful, but she can be hit very easily if she doesn't take care of herself.
Yeah, and Ryan's attacks fit him kind of perfectly as well, being such like head on.
Yeah, he could take a lot of.
He takes a lot of aggro, and he's basically your tank. That's the way I would play.
He was the easiest character for me to get to, like to reach a HP cap with.
Oh yeah, same. I maxed it out.
Yeah, actually, did any of you ever see the hidden scene with Melia and Shulk? Like after when Shulk is unconscious, and he's in the Machina village.
I don't recall that. No.
I've read about it, but I can't remember.
I think I may have. I have seen it.
So basically. She goes to check on Shulk, and you can trigger like a whole set of like dialogues with just Melia talking to herself, and it's really like it's kind of heartbreaking because she's basically confessing her feelings to Shulk and going on about how Shulk is the reason why she was able to do what she does and how he kept her strong.
Yes,
actually,
it was the most tragic. It was for me. I remember watching that and going through that, and for me, like that was like as someone like who's a huge Melia fan, like that was just the most tragic scene in the game. For me, one of them was just I don't know. It was just.
Yeah, and I think like it's supposed to be implied that
touching.
It's very touching.
It's emotional.
I think it's like implied that she wanted to like kiss him or something, but she kind of stops herself from doing it. And because she's just like, I don't know, I can't be this way towards him. And she, again, it just goes into how Melia, she can and can't control her emotions at times. And she's constantly at odds with herself. Like, and isn't entirely sure how to put it.
Yeah, because she's basically trying to put her feelings aside, and then going and kissing Shulk would probably not help with that.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, that scene's really really heartbreaking. And I think it's like that scene, and there's one more scene that really hit home, was the one where she speaks to Fiora, and then Fiora walks away, then Melia, yet again, tilts her head downwards, and says, I'm nothing compared to her.
Melia, let me hug you.
You're your own person, Melia. Don't worry about comparing yourself to others.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Like, it also goes to show you, even if you're the empress of the known fucking world, all it takes is somebody, like, not reciprocating your love to make you sad. And I think it makes Melia very human.
Mm-hmm. Very human. That's something that, like, I can relate to that. The unrequited love, I can relate to that from personal experience. I'm sure a lot of us can as well. Yeah, it's a very natural thing. A lot of people go through that at some point in their life. And I think that's just something that just felt so real about her. And the way it's executed, I think that's probably the biggest thing that makes it great, is the way it's executed. You see it in cutscenes, you see it in side cutscenes, the way she acts, the words she says. It, like, you can really sense the kind of conflicts that she's going through, but still trying her best to put on a confident face to protect the ones that she does care about. So all in all, she's an admirable character. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, she's
definitely one of the strongest characters of Xenoblade Chronicles 1.
I have a trouble thinking of anybody that I know who doesn't like Melia. Like, even people I know don't like Xenoblade 1 like Melia.
I just unlocked her her spirit in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Nice.
I think I found her on like the spirit board, and I was like, oh snap, I need to get this, and made sure to do that because you have like 5 minutes and then it switches to a different card. Did anybody play as or use Melia in their party for the final boss fight?
No, I don't remember.
Yeah.
So I wanted to, but the reason I didn't was because I thought it would fit better if my party was Shulk, Ryan, and Fiora.
You know what? I was gonna say the same thing.
I can't remember who was in my party, but I know Charla probably was, because I love having Charla's healing abilities.
Like, because I need to have Ryan as like my tank, and I had his HP. I always saw my first playthrough. God, this was 6 years ago when I beat it, because I played it and took a break and then picked it up again and really got into it. And I was like, okay, I'm finishing this game. And it took me like almost 100 hours on the initial playthrough. Mm-hmm. And actually, that's what it's been for me on all 3 of the Xenoblade games. It's been about 100 hours for the initial, when I initially beat.
Yeah. So each game is a 100 hours minimum.
The main quest. Yeah. Minimum. Yeah, that's key. That's very key. I don't have them in front of me, but my logs are. I've probably spent 300 hours on the original. I think I have 400 clocked on my X save file, and I have about. My Switch says 360 hours played, but I'm at 260 for Xenoblade 2. So I probably put in 1,000 hours in Xenoblade. It's definitely worth it. But with the final battle, having Fiora, Ryan, and Shulk, with having Fiora and Shulk, there's like part of the cutscene where their eyes are kind of glowing, and that's ripped straight from Xenoblade 3. But yeah, that was just like, I know it's about Melia, but that scene was like so like hit me so strongly that I was like, I really want to have Melia in my party, but I need to have Fiora.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember it made sense to just have Fiora and that final fight for sure.
Yeah, and then Ryan was more out of, strategy. Wise, not really character-wise. I'd gone with Ryan for most of the game.
I have to start packing up, guys. I'm going to end my audio, but you guys can go ahead if you have more to say.
Sure.
Thanks for letting me on again.
No
Melia
problem.
is best.
Yeah. Actually, there's probably one more thing I want to bring up real quick about Melia, and that's that her voice actress. First of all, she did a fantastic job. Second of all, have any of you watched Doctor Who? Because I believe her name is Jenna Coleman, and then she did Clara in the Doctor Who series.
Wait,
I haven't seen.
Clara was a voice actress for the
Yep.
English version of Melia. Holy shit! Now I need to.
I've seen only
I'm
the
sorry,
first couple
but
episodes.
Clara is my favorite Doctor Who companion, probably.
That's
ever.
Awesome.
So,
and that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to know if somebody heard her in Doctor Who.
Two of my favorite fictional characters, same actress, voice actress, and as a voice actress and.
Okay, I'm going to cut my audio, and I will see you guys later.
All right, bye. Thanks again.
Right, take care. Thanks.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It was a pleasure.
Yes, nice to meet you. Bye.
Nice to meet you as well.
All right. Well, this might be actually a good point to stop the episode. I'm glad you brought up that about Melia's voice actress, because I was thinking about bringing it up too.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, now I don't think we really talked about Shion's voice actress in the Shion episode.
I played the game in Japanese. I didn't play it in English, so I haven't actually heard I haven't really. I was going to get the new Nintendo 3DS version of it's like Xenoblade 3D just to have it for my 3DS too, but I never got around to getting it, and now if you want to get it, it's like they don't manufacture it anymore, so to get a physical copy of it, it's a one copy of well, I don't have Xenogears, a physical copy of Gears, but it's the only one that I don't have from the Xenoblade, because I have a special edition of both 2 and X, and then a physical copy of the first.
The original Xenoblade has fantastic English voice acting, and rewatching the cutscenes really reinforced that.
Yes, and it was crazy. I was rewatching these scenes. I'm like, my goodness, I love this game. The voices are so good, and the delivery is just surprisingly well done.
Nintendo of Europe really showed Nintendo of America how it's done in terms of voice acting for localization.
But yeah, I definitely recommend checking out the English dub for Xenoblade. I think it's one of the better ones out there. A lot of people are purists; they'll stick with the Japanese. But I think Xenoblade 1, and actually I'd also say for 2 as well, I actually prefer the English dub for both of them.
Really? Mm-hmm. See, I know some Japanese, and so that's why I usually, my default goes to Japanese, because...
Yeah, I do too, and...
But I'll probably... I've been itching to do, a new playthrough of Xenoblade 1, so I might this time go with the English voice acting as opposed
to definitely give it a shot.
For a new playthrough.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I think we'll just wrap the episode up here since Kat left. So but at the end of the episode, we kind of go around, and if there's anything we want to plug or anything, we can do that. Kat left, but she is a really great artist. I've known her since I've known her for probably over a decade now, because we went to the same Xeno forums. She runs the Xeno forum, Xeno Underground. So if anybody wanted to ever check out Xeno Underground, it has a bunch of artwork and projects containing various Xeno games. I would highly recommend that. Justin, is there anything you'd like to plug?
You know what? This is like the first time where I don't have a whole lot to plug. I think if I had to say something, I am working on a couple reviews / impressions, but that's really about it. You can check out the site I write for at operationrainfall.com, but otherwise, I don't really have much.
Okay. Morgan, I know you run your own outlet.
Yeah, I run VGCultureHQ.com. That's called VG Culture HQ. And right now I'm actually working on I just got a review copy for Steins Gate Elite, which is pretty awesome. So I'll probably have a review up of that by the end of the week, and I think I'm going to start by tomorrow, have a piece on just like an initial impressions, and then I might have I've been thinking of some Xeno editorials to do, so I'll look out for that. And you can find me on Twitter. I'm Guy WA Zelda Tattoo. So at Guy, it's abbreviated for Guy with the Zelda Tattoo because I have a Legend of Zelda tattoo.
Oh my gosh!
And I want to get a Zohar tattoo on my forearm. So maybe I'll be Guy with the Xeno tattoo next.
Yes, join the club. Yeah, because me and because I work with RPG Fan, and I know someone else there that also has a Zohar tattoo. So we're like Club Zohar.
I met someone with RPG Fan, I think, at Anime Expo. Huh. I think.
Okay. So yeah, I work with RPG Fan. I write news articles, which I tend to hog all the Xenoblade ones that come up, but unless someone wrestles it away from me. I feel like I was going to say something else, but I can't remember. Oh yeah, I'm at Cosmos Chaos on Twitter. And yeah, speaking of Twitter, I don't think I mentioned it in the last episode, but XenoChat does have a Twitter account. It's at ZENO_chat. So I couldn't get Zeno with an X, so I went to the next best route. So yeah, always check there for like when we announce new episodes, or I have a poll up at the moment. This is probably be old news by the time this episode goes live, but kind of asking what people might want us to do for the next episode. So vote if you haven't. But yeah, that's it. Our discussion on Melia. Thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate the discussion. It's really good.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a good time.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, and hopefully you'll be on again.
Yeah, I'd be humbled to be back. So
all right. Well, you guys, thanks for listening, and have a good night.
Take care, everyone.